Hi, I'm Russ Hedleston, co-founder and CEO at DocSend. We're a team of 7, and 6 of us studied computer science at Stanford. The 3 of us who founded the company have been classmates, coworkers, and friends for over a decade. As a team, we come from some of the best companies in tech. Before we get into what DocSend actually does, we're going to talk about everyone's favorite topic, documents. 500 billion. That's the number of documents created in 2013 alone, according to Microsoft. In fact, 85% of business data still resides in documents. DocSend deals with those documents sent for business communication, like those used by salespeople, marketers, and recruiters. In all these cases, sending a document can be really frustrating. You just don't know what happens to it. So let's say I send a sales document. I don't know who's opened it and who they've sent it to. I don't know if they looked through the entire thing or if they found some parts more interesting. And once I send it, it's completely out of my control. DocSend directly solves these problems. It tells me who's opened my document and who they've sent it to. It tells me what they actually looked at, specifically how long they look at each page, and it allows me to control how the content is consumed. Even after I send a document, I can update it or restrict access at any time. To illustrate how useful these features are, we'll use an example from a sales guy right here in New York City, Don Draper. Don is a senior partner at the ad agency Sterling & Cooper. At the moment, Don is trying to find a buyer for a Super Bowl ad spot using DocSend. To show, we'll do a live demo. Okay, these are the documents that Don sends for his job. Each time Don sends a document, he creates a unique link so that it can be tracked and controlled separately. These are the links and data associated with his Super Bowl proposal. Don has sent this proposal to 3 different companies, Pan Am, TWA, and Eastern Airlines. At the top, we can see that Brian has already opened the proposal. Great. Sadly, he only spent 7 seconds looking at 25% of it. That's a bummer. TWA hasn't even opened the proposal at all. So even if these companies got back to Don, the data tells him that they just aren't interested, so he can cross them off his list. Eastern Airlines, on the other hand, is clearly interested. And the original recipient of the proposal has looked through the entire thing and spent over 2 minutes in it. Digging into her visit, we can see where she actually spent time. As we can see here, she glossed over the first part pretty quickly, just a few seconds on each, and then really focused her time on these 2 pages here that talk about the audience demographics. And then forwarded the proposal to 2 of her colleagues, Stephen and George. Both of them looked through the entire thing as well, which is great. So things are looking pretty good for Don at this point. Using DocSend, Don knows who to follow up with, Eastern Airlines. He knows who will likely be involved in the sales process, and he knows what they're interested in. Now, unfortunately, Don did not have access to DocSend or even the internet back in his day. But luckily, there are lots of real people who use DocSend today. 7 months ago, we added the first few companies to our beta. Since then, with no marketing and while in stealth mode, we've had people from hundreds of companies join DocSend. They've all discovered it via word of mouth and the natural virality that happens as you send around DocSend links. As we expected, sales is a common use case, as is marketing. I think you'll be surprised, though, at the wide range of other use cases we've already discovered. Identified sold their company to Workday using DocSend. Ship uses DocSend for all of their recruiting. Zen Payroll raised $20 million using DocSend. And a Japanese company that doesn't even speak English uses DocSend for all their internal HR training. These users haven't been idle. They've generated thousands of documents, tens of thousands of visitors, and hundreds of thousands of page views. And we haven't even launched yet. The list of companies that have received and looked through a DocSend link is also impressive. In the past few months, decision makers from over 15,000 companies have received and looked through a DocSend link. When we ask people why they use DocSend, we hear the same themes over and over again. DocSend helps me focus my time, communicate more effectively, sell more product, and do my job. Once you start using DocSend, you'll realize that not using it is like not having analytics on your website. After you understand the power it provides You just can't go back. Today, here at Disrupt, we're announcing that we've raised $1.7 million from Softtech, Cowboy, and Lear Ventures. We're also announcing our product, and we're launching DocSend.com. The product is free today, and we'll add paid features later this year. So don't live in the Stone Age. Unleash the power of your documents, and sign up at DocSend.com today.
All right. Great job. Judges?
So I may have missed that, but I didn't understand if the document creation and sending goes through your system and reading the documents is on your system. So it is not integrated to me attaching a Word document on Gmail or whatever, just trying to figure out how it actually works.
Sure. So the whole life in DocSend begins when you upload a doc to our site. At that point, we encode the doc into our own format so that it can be displayed on any device, and we're actually hosting those documents. So you can then create multiple links to the document, you copy those links, and you send it out through email, or you could post it online as well if you want to do a more one-to-many use case.
So you're like 50 different missing features in Google Docs, in a sense.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, we've actually found that users prefer us to be a separate system from those, and they don't actually mind uploading their documents because they think of us as their production document store. It's a relatively rare event to upload a new version to us, and they like having it separate and safe.
Is the integration a little like Dropbox, where you just it's on your desktop and you're linking to files?
That is a good idea. At this point, no. And we actually think Dropbox and Box are a very different use case around collaborative editing. In this model, if you're sending out a sales doc or pitch deck, you don't want to collaboratively edit it. And the document it's okay if it lives in this different system with this different feature set.
Can you talk a little bit about the competitive environment?
Sure. So there are some big companies that could move into the space, like a Box or a Dropbox. From talking to all our customers, they actually, as I said, like having a different system for this. So even if they did do it, they couldn't sandwich them together. You need them to be separate. In terms of another startup doing this, we have a great team of engineers. We build very quickly. We have a very elegant, easy-to-use product. So we'll just see how we do in that department. And then finally, you might compare us to a company like ClearSlide, which is a much broader platform focused on the high-end kind of sales team, like internal sales team thing. And we have just a very different product philosophy than they do. We've actually had a number of companies come join us from ClearSlide already. And they'll use this in conjunction with like a Yesware and a Join Me to like round out that whole set of things they need.
Yeah, so you have investment, you have a bunch of users, you have virality. So what are you looking for?
Well, we're a little bit perfectionist in some ways. We actually discovered a lot of problems with the first version, just in how people perceive this idea. It's actually kind of a new notion to have multiple pointers going to one object. So we used the first 6 months to just study users and see how they reacted to it. We then came out with a new design, got a bunch more people on it, and now we're kind of ready for the next step of opening it up even more.
Well, you've got such a great name. I mean, .com, it's awesome. And it's a little bit like spying, though, on the, with the users. So what do you think of that?
In terms of privacy, we've worked with a law firm to work through that. There aren't any privacy issues.
I mean, do you think users want like a spectrum of like how deep it goes to report?
So you're asking more just on the social side. Is it socially acceptable?
Yeah, can you turn it off or on, like whether I want every little thing reported or?
Yeah, so it's a tool, and like any tool, you could misuse it in some scenarios, but really it works just like when you click on a link in a marketing email. Our users are all business people. They're in business working relationships. They're trying to figure out where to spend their time. We have, across all of our visits, not had any problems come to us around someone getting mad about this or the business relationship not working out.
I think it's great. I think it's definitely a missing piece in the world of analytics today. I think, just a bit of feedback, I think that people have a certain mind share for dealing with documents, and they don't want many different systems. And I think you are limiting yourselves if you're not thinking about collaboratively editing or integration to offline. I think that unless you think about integrating to every possible facet of how people think about documents, some of the other players in those other areas will just disrupt you at some point, especially if they have a larger market access already.
So this is actually why, as we make our way, so today we focused on really nailing the use case for the individual. But then when we move towards monetization later in this year, as Russ mentioned, introducing some paid features, a large part of that is getting teams on board. And in order to make the product just really sing in that context, we need really seamless integrations with where the documents are stored. So just dead simple pulling in from the cloud, from Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, whatever it may be. Then the other thing is going to be integrating with where your people data lives in your CRM. So whatever CRM you're using. And then the last thing would be your communication mechanism. So integrating into your email client so to make the DocSend link sending process dead simple. So with pulling out all those stops, that should really reduce the friction.
I want a question about if I'm the recipient of one of these documents. So to me, I get an email and it's a link I click and it takes me to this online document viewer.
Exactly.
And what does the URL look like?
So it'll say DocSend.com and then some hash.
Okay. So going back to the privacy angle, I know when I used to get like startup pitches, it drove me, people would try to send like analytic links to see if I was looking at it for so long, probably on websites as opposed to documents. I hated that. And so I'm wondering, is it possible that you haven't really gotten much pushback on that because people don't know what this service is? They don't know that they're being monitored as far as how long they're reading a document. Do you tell people when they click that link, we're watching you to see how far down this page you're reading?
It would actually be a big hindrance in that user flow to do it. So what we've done, and that's why we tested it for so long, was to see, well, what are the new social norms that develop around this? And what we found is that when someone gets a DocSend link, you can either email them back saying, please send me the PDF, in which case you have to wait for it, or you can just click, go through, do your thing, and take the information, just move on. So it ends up creating this new dynamic, and Facebook actually has an internal product that's similar to this, that's used for designs. And this whole new social norm ends up developing around it where if I want to look at it, I will, and I know you will, and I don't have to waste time getting back to you about it. And it ends up just saving people time in the end.
All right, so we're out of time. That was DocSend. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks.